Sylvia Chase, Jim Paymar, Mark Thompson Weather, Tom Nettles Sports, Wayne Shannon with commentary. And now from the West's most honored newsroom, the News Center for Northern California, this is News Center 4.
The Golden Gate Bridge, considered the 8th wonder of the world, the bridge they said couldn't be built, stands magnificent on the eve of her 50th birthday. Good evening, everyone. For a half a century, this glorious structure has been a symbol of man's achievement, his ability to dream impossible dreams.
Tonight, News Center 4 begins a weekend of coverage as the people of the Bay Area celebrate this bridge.
But while we prepare to celebrate on this side of the country, 3,000 miles away, it was a day of mourning for the victims of the USS Stark. A memorial service was held in Florida at the Mayport Naval Station, the Stark's home port. There were 300 relatives and 1,700 members of the Navy family.
We gather in our grief to honor brave men.
The families were flown there at government expense by orders of the President.
Our task today is simple and sad. To remember to pay tribute to those we loved. They were tough, they were brave, they were great. Well, they were great. And those that died did embody the best of us. Yes, they were ordinary men who did extraordinary things.
Then President Reagan began what he calls the toughest part of his job, comforting the families of the victims. An elderly woman collapsed either from grief or heat and was helped up by the President. During his administration, 309 servicemen have died in the line of duty.
I'm John Fullmer on Treasure Island, where there was renewed intensity today in the Navy school that teaches damage control and firefighting after an attack at sea.
Remember, you don't need this spanner wrench tight because it's going to be underwater. You don't have to worry about it sucking in any air.
The USS Stark is obviously on every mind.
When somebody comes up and just blows your ship to pieces, there should be some kind of action taken to countermeasure it.
It was a crew like this that kept damage on the Stark at a minimum.
It makes up sick. It could be you out there.
Do you think about that now?
More now than I did before I joined, yeah.
And I pledge to you that neither you nor they will be forgotten.
A new class of religious program specialists, the people who assist chaplains during crises and tragedy, watched today's memorial service on TV. They watched, wept, and wondered.
I think we all lost somebody, even though it may not have been an actual person. We lost something.
Kind of scared now because even in a supposedly peaceful situation, now you got to fear.
So we ask, why did this happen? Why to them? Could anything be worth such a sacrifice?
Truly, we do honor those that have given their life, but just as they have given theirs, I'm willing to give mine also.
You're having no second thoughts about where you are or what you're doing?
No second thoughts at all, because I love my country.
On Treasure Island, I'm John Fullmer, News Center 4.
This then is the close of a week which began with the shock of the Stark, then the sobering reality of this age in which the mightiest engines of war cannot guard our human frailty. A look back now at the week and the men whose names are now part of our nation's history.
The USS Stark was hit by an Exocet missile last night as it cruised in the Gulf, a part of the American fleet sent there to protect oil tankers caught in the Iran-Iraq war. Iraqi President Saddam Hussein sent a message to President Reagan tonight saying that the attack was accidental.
These pictures are the first close-up look at the damage caused by the Iraqi missiles. The huge hole blown right in the middle of the Stark, the place where many of her crews slept.
But the commander of the task force in the Gulf says the Stark did not know missiles had been fired. The ship did recognize.
But today in Baghdad, Iraq's foreign minister denied there had been a warning to the pilot.
I had to check.
At Mayport today, as at U.S. military bases around the world, flags were lowered to half staff on orders of the Commander-in-Chief, President Reagan. The loss of 37 lives aboard the Stark makes this the worst U.S. naval disaster in hostile conditions since World War II.
They were bored spectators of an endless war, one official said, calmly watching the Iraqi plane on radar for 200 miles, never suspecting the Stark itself was the target. The first missile fired was only 7 to 8 miles away, or 45 seconds to impact. A few sweeps of the radar.
A few of the many who mourned the loss of 37 sailors aboard the USS Stark were at Bahrain Airport this morning. The caskets of 35 men were put aboard a transport plane. The bodies of 2 men have not been found. At the side of the captain was asked if he felt personal blame for what happened.
I don't know whether any of it was my fault. I don't know whether it was a fault of an operator. I don't know whether it was the fault of the equipment. I don't know whether it was an act of God.
Captain Brindell.
The hazards to our men and women in uniform in the defense of freedom can never be understated. The officers and crew of the USS Stark deserve our highest admiration and appreciation.
While the Bay Area gears up for this big party weekend, Wayne Freedman joins us live from Crissy Field for a preview of the weekend's activities. Wayne?
Sylvia, Crissy Field right now is relatively quiet. In fact, just the normal people going to the bridge, running back and forth, some workmen getting ready for Sunday's big event. But everyone is, as you say, gearing up for the big celebration. We took a look around the Bay Area today, and here's what we found. Don't try parking along Mason Street the next couple of days. It will be filled with antique airplanes, part of a bridge flyover scheduled for Sunday. Exhibit A that this party may be a blast. Remember these? File tape from the Bay Bridge anniversary last fall. Multiply by 2, and that's what party planners say they'll have Sunday night. 2 bargefulls, 20,000 fireworks, a 20-minute display so big that pyrotechnicians from 11 western states applied for jobs.
This is not exactly what you call safe and sane. This is safe and insane.
Next, we move from girders to garters to goosebumps and the San Francisco Ballet.
It's freezing.
These dancers posed by the bridge today for a poster promoting their trip to Japan. We're not certain how this ties in with the big party, but it makes a nice picture. And while we're on the subject of pictures, how about the Murrays from Richmond, Virginia? They're among the many sane people walking the bridge 2 days early, celebrating this thing their own way.
We took the harbor tour yesterday, went under the bridge. That was nice to see the skyline.
You went under it yesterday and you're going on it today?
Right.
Drove across it a while ago. What else is there? We've done everything there, I think. Finally, let's talk gigahertz, as in mobile microwave. In preparation for live coverage of Sunday's Bridge Walk, News Center 4 engineers Larry Burston and Bill Rinker built this contraption mounted in, of all things, a little red wagon.
Bill, are you proud of yourself? I feel like a little kid again.
We got a mobile microwave, and they don't. And with that, we simply say, technology marches on. And preparations march on as well. Here's the big stage where the symphony will perform on Sunday, and jazz bands and comedians and dancers and who knows what else. It's very busy around here. We'll have more later on. Back to you.
Thanks, Wayne. I don't know about you, but I can't wait.
Well, with all of the Golden Gate Bridge festivities planned for this weekend, just getting to this bridge could be a major feat. News Center 4's Don Knapp is live at mid-span somewhere with that story. Don.
Jim, of course, I'm on the sidewalk of the Golden Gate Bridge mid-span, where anybody can walk or ride a bike or run just about any day of the week. This weekend, of course, the sidewalk is not the attraction. The attraction is the roadway out there. And they're going to be standing in line at either end of this bridge to get on the road, and probably standing in line in cars all around the Bay Area. To help you out of that, we've prepared a survivor's guide. Herewith now, the way to survive Sunday morning bridge walk on the Golden Gate Bridge.
The road to the Golden Gate Bridge ends here for people in cars heading south Sunday morning during bridge walk hours. All southbound Highway 101 traffic will have to take the Sausalito exit. There will be some parking at the flea market, and Sausalito will allow cars into town until traffic backs up. Then traffic will be turned around and sent back up 101. There is a better way. CHP Lieutenant Val Daniels.
Use public transportation. That's the number one feature in this plan that we have. People have to use public transportation in order to get to the bridge.
Here's the transit plan for Marin County. Special Golden Gate shuttle buses will carry people from 5 parking lots along the freeway to the bridge. The lots are at Lucas Valley Road, Marin County Civic Center, the Golden Gate Transit Yard near Highway 101, Strawberry Village Shopping Center, and the Marin City Flea Market lot. Shuttle fares are $5 round trip. Sausalito roads alongside the freeway will be closed. Motorists coming to the Golden Gate Bridge from San Francisco will find the road closed on Doyle Drive at 19th Avenue. They'll exit and head south. Here's the transit plan for San Francisco. Muni shuttles will pick up people at major transit centers. Bart's Embarcadero Station, AC's Transbay Terminal, the Caltrain Depot, and along Lincoln Way at 46th. People in cars are urged to park their cars near these areas and take the shuttles. Bus trips are 75 cents each way. The Golden Gate Bridge will be shut down from 6 in the morning to 10 in the morning. During these hours and well into the day, traffic around the bay is expected to back up. The Bay Bridge will likely be crowded, and so will the Richmond Bridge. People in the East Bay who just want to go south are advised to avoid the city completely and drive south along the east shore to the San Mateo Bridge.
For those who still want to drive their cars to the Golden Gate Bridge, let me tell you a few other important facts. You won't be able to park in the Marin Headlands. You can't park at Crissy Field. You can't park in the Presidio, places where you can usually put a lot of cars. So good luck. Back to you, Jim and Sylvia.
Sounds like it's going to be a mess. That's Don Knapp live at the midspan of the Golden Gate. Sil?
Well, obviously, hundreds of thousands of people are expected to stroll across the bridge during the walk Sunday morning. But they may be surprised when the CHP asks them to walk only halfway.
We feel that it will be good for us and for everyone involved if people walk to somewhere around mid-span, turn around and come back. We'll try to encourage them to do that because the entire round trip would be about a 4-mile walk, and then this way it'll be about a 2-mile walk. And we'll be able to get the bridge open as we planned at about 9:30.
Bridge walkers will be asked to follow a marching band as it turns around in mid-span, and Lieutenant Daniels says that this half-walk thing has been the CHP's plan all along.
And there was other news around the Bay Area and the world on this Friday, May the 22nd.
Maria Geral, tinha muita gente embaixo do prédio.
Out of control doesn't quite say it. This Brazilian skyscraper caught fire last night. The flames spread to nearby buildings and continued to burn unchecked for 6 hours. No one was killed, but several bystanders were injured when part of the building exploded and collapsed. No one knows how it started.
The chant is pro-Iranian. The spirit is anti-superpower and anti-Israel. This is the day of Quds, a day for Muslims around the world to demonstrate against foreign aggression. The Ayatollah Khomeini came up with the idea 8 years ago, and it caught on. It's now one of the biggest annual demonstrations in the Muslim world.
You've heard the music, seen the movie, and now you can buy the book. A manuscript of symphonies by Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart was auctioned at Sotheby's today for a record $4 million. It contains 9 works handwritten by Amadeus himself. The buyer is keeping his identity secret, so we don't know if he can read music or just the bottom line.
Happy indeed. Sir Laurence Olivier turned 80 today, secure in his place as the greatest British actor of the century. In London, the National Portrait Gallery is honoring him with an exhibit. Olivier says portraits are fine, but movies are out. After 60 films, Sir Laurence says the play is the thing.
Before there was a bridge celebration, before there was even a bridge, there was Joe Bruno. Today, at the age of 74, he swam across the Golden Gate. This is the 53rd time Bruno has made the swim. And today, despite a strong tide, he made the trip in under an hour. And he says he may do it again tomorrow. The last phase of construction on the Golden Gate Bridge was the roadway itself. Building it took 4 years. In that time, there was one death, a tragedy builders vowed would not happen again. But they were wrong. News Center 4's Mark Jones has the final chapter in tonight's cover story, Building the Golden Gate Bridge.
The bridge's form was there. The road itself would take another year to build. First, they had to hang suspender ropes of different lengths from the big cable. The ropes had been pre-stretched at the factory to get them ready for the tremendous weight they would carry. Then roadside girders were hung. Then crossbeams were swung into place. Below the roadway, zigzag reinforcing trusses were attached. The massive beams swayed beyond control in the wind. The workers started at the two towers and inched towards each other at the same pace. That kept the weight on the towers equal. When the bridge was finished, the weight of the roadway and the weight of the pavement would make the span sag 21 feet, the way the engineers designed it. The engineers designed something else, something never used before on any bridge construction, a safety net. The cost totaled $130,000, but Chief Engineer Strauss thought it would make the men relax and work faster. They did, and the net saved lives, too. The Oakland Bay Bridge was being built without a net. 22 men fell from it and died. 19 men fell from the Golden Gate Bridge and were caught in the safety net. Strauss demanded safety. This was the first time in history that bridge men were required to wear leather safety hats. And if they didn't hook up their safety lines, they were fired. By Christmas 1935, the bridge looked almost finished. The final touch, the toll booths, were under construction. The roadway workers were welding the reinforcing bars, leaving only the concrete to be poured. Enough concrete to build a 5-foot sidewalk all the way to New York City. Here's how they supported that weight. Once the steel reinforcing bars were welded, the area underneath was covered with plywood sheets. Then the concrete was poured. After it hardened, workers climbed down onto a scaffold and just peeled away the plywood. They thought they were safe. The net was below them. But on the morning of February 17th, 1937, safety inspectors were on their way to check the scaffolds when a bracket snapped. Slim Lampert was the 26-year-old foreman on that scaffold.
I was falling head down, and I knew I had to straighten up and hit feet first or I'd never make it. And I was able to do that, and I survived. I saw 3 different sets of shoes, feet, sticking above the water. And 2 were motionless, but 1 set were thrashing. So I went to the assistance of that man, and he was alive all right.
Oh, I had a big road, and I turned around and see this thing going down, and 2 men, just 2 of them came out. See, the rest of them went down with a net, you know, and scaffolded the whole thing down to the bay.
I was hoping to attract the Coast Guard's attention because they circled out to sea several times and then went back under the bridge, but they never came out far enough.
They called everybody to go home and said, go right straight home. So when they broadcasted, they know that you wasn't in an accident, you see.
Eventually, when the fishing boat operator picked us up, I thought he was going to go by us, too. He was off some little way, and finally, before he quite got by us, he must have been at a 90 degree to us. I could see his eye finally spotted us. And that was just like the sun coming out and birds starting to sing, and what a feeling.
Slim Lampert and another friend survived the fall. Only Lampert is alive today. 10 men died in the fall. Their deaths were caused by a small bolt which should have kept the bracket from snapping. The bolt wasn't big enough. No one ever took the blame, but the man who had planned on building the bridge with no fatalities, Joseph Strauss, would die a year later of a coronary thrombosis. Friends said the 10 deaths broke his heart. The job of finishing the roadway went on. Workers put in the custom-made railing so motorists could always see the bay. Architect Irving Morrow picked a rusty color, deluxe international orange, for the bridge, so it would fit in with the landscape. May 27th, 1937. Opening day, number 1, was just for people. 200,000 people showed up and paid a nickel each to walk across. Opening day number 2, the first traffic rolled across. The toll that day was 50 cents, and 35,000 cars made the crossing. Since then, 1 billion cars have followed. Its admirers say the Golden Gate Bridge has become more than a roadway to far more than 1 billion people. In 50 years, the bridge has become a landmark, an art object, a source of pride and wonder. The 50th anniversary won't change all that, neither will the 150th. In San Francisco, Mark Jones, News Center 4.
And you can see all of the 50th, the exciting celebration for the Golden Gate Bridge right here on News Center 4. On Sunday, we'll have day-long coverage starting at 5:55 in the morning. News Center 4 will take you live to the opening ceremonies and to the bridge walk, and we'll have live reports for you throughout the day with special coverage on our weekend newscasts at 5 and midnight, and of course the Golden Gate special at 8 with Jim and me.
We are back live from the Golden Gate Bridge, and the weather a little bit chilly, and the man to tell us all about the Sunday forecast for the bridge walk, Mark Thompson, down at Crissy Field. Mark?
Hello, James. Yeah, just a little bit breezy. I don't know the conditions on Sunday will be quite as favorable as they are right now, actually. We might see some overcast here by the coast on Sunday as a weak weather system drops in. By the way, you are in a great location. I don't know, I haven't had a chance to actually check it out, but you look like you're wind sheltered and comfortable. Is everything okay up there?
Mark, it couldn't be better. We're sitting up above Fort Point. We've got an unbelievable view of the bridge, as you can see behind us, and we do have a shelter over to the side. Maybe at some point you'll get a chance to take a look at that.
It looks spectacular. It really does. You guys, you look so good. You really do. But truly, out here, we were getting a good westerly breeze. I'd plan on that for the weekend. All right, I haven't changed much the forecast for Sunday, with one big exception. Late in the day, I have mentioned something that we'll get to in just a moment. Dress, though, for the windy, chilly weather we spoke of last night. The bridge, I think, will be unobscured by fog, although there will be a lot of overcast in. But there could be some possible showers late Sunday. I mentioned that. I don't think the possibility is greater than 50-50, but as a little weak weather system drops in, that could be a possibility. We'll talk about that. In any case, I dressed for the windy, chilly conditions we spoke of last night. Around the Bay Area today, there was enough vertical mixing to kind of churn that fog out. Whatever coastal cloudiness we had broke up fairly early. That allowed for considerable daytime heating. South Bay locations into the 70s, peninsula readings into the 70s and upper 60s. Half Moon Bay, where it was foggy much of the day, into the upper 50s. Mid-60s here in San Francisco, 65 at Oakland, 76 Livermore, 80 at Morgan Hill. 74 San Rafael for the daytime high. Novato checked in with 77. Paulo Young and Petaluma reported 72. 77 Concord. Jim Webb at Clayton reported 80. Ashley Chapman in Los Altos reported 72. Napa reported 65, and thank you, Jack, for that. 80 at Fairfield. This is our live picture to show you with brisk winds over the bay, westerly winds that will be here all weekend. Temperatures right now in the 50s. Barometric pressure is 30.07. I look for overnight lows tonight, for the most part, to drop in the 40s and 50s. There could be a 30 or 2 in outlying area. That is, temperatures dipping into the 30s. Mild, but very humid in the east. Temperatures in the 80s and 90s and very humid air. And along that frontal band where there's much cooler area, obviously in behind over the upper Midwest, there are showers and thunder showers, some of them severe over Texas and the southern plains states and back into the desert Southwest. I'd look for showers to be quite prevalent along the northeast into the mid-Atlantic states. So if you're journeying east, plan on rain right through the weekend. That in the northeast into the eastern Ohio Valley and back into the mid-Atlantic states. Into the Intermountain West, a few scattered afternoon thunder showers right through the period. On the west coast, you will just be able to see an upper-level disturbance. We'll put it in now. Now, this is the way things look now. But by Sunday, that low-pressure area will drop south. And as it does, it will provide us with enough instability to perhaps give us a slight threat of showers that on Sunday, particularly late in the day. Otherwise, though, I think it'll be cold, windy, and overcast. Not foggy, though. Not the fog down on the deck. That's why I say the bridge will not be obscured by the fog. All that stuff offshore is kind of that low cloudiness, that overcast. And while that'll be around on Sunday, it will not be low enough to obscure the bridge. 70s and 80s in the Central Valley for tomorrow. If you're journeying to Lake Tahoe, that upper-level disturbance will provide the threat of snow showers down to about 7,000 feet by Sunday. So backcountry travelers, you should take note of that. 60s at Yosemite, and Palm Springs should make it into the 90s. 70s Marin and North Bay, 60s San Francisco for tomorrow. The peninsula to the 70s. Tomorrow looks like the better day of the 3 of this Memorial Day weekend. 70s in the South Bay. Coastal clouds, fair and cool inland otherwise. 30s, 40s, and 50s overnight. For tomorrow, I'd look for mostly sunny conditions inland. The coastal clouds may linger. Highs in the 50s, 60s, and 70s around the bay.
And then in the High Sierra, rain and snow. As I say, the snow threat, particularly Sunday, as that weather system drops in. It will be cool and windy, though, all weekend long, and a thunder shower reported both at Susanville and Truckee last hour. So the trend will be for increasing amounts of overcast through the weekend, but the fog, it would really obscure the deck out there, shouldn't be around. It'll kind of be that low cloudiness that'll be far enough overhead, that is high up enough, for us to, I think, get the bridge walk in without too many problems, although it will be cool and windy. That's the word from here. We will see you on Sunday. Looking forward to it. It's going to be a fabulous celebration, and we'll be here every step of the way. Back to you, Jim, Sylvia.
Mark, cool, windy, foggy, it doesn't matter. It's going to be a great party. And we'll have more news after this. An Air Force training jet crashed in midair with a private plane in the Southern California desert today, killing 4 people. The crash killed both officers aboard the 2-seat jet and 2 men in the light plane. Both planes were using C and V scene visual flight rules over Edwards Air Force Base.
A 12-year-old San Francisco girl is in critical condition after she nearly drowned yesterday during a school swimming lesson. Tonight, the questions are what went wrong and who's responsible. Emil Guillermo reports.
These Francisco Junior High students were in 12-year-old Nancy Ho's swimming class. They say Nancy, even though a beginning swimmer, went straight to the 6-foot waters at the North Beach pool around 10:30 a.m. At this point, no one is sure what happens, but some witnesses say it was as long as 5 minutes before Nancy Ho got any help. The school district is trying to figure out the exact time, but where was the supervising teacher? Principal Benson Wong.
Unfortunately, the teacher had his back towards that area, assisting, again, another student.
And the lifeguard. According to the teacher's statement to the principal, he arrived around 10:45. Nancy came to America just a year ago from Vietnam. She had poor English skills, and the only teacher present was not bilingual. Today, Nancy Ho's sister, Sue Ho, says family members are considering legal action. But the school district's Tom Salmon feels there was no negligence.
The position of the school district is if we have reasonable supervision and we've taken reasonable care to supervise students, that we're not negligent and therefore not liable.
However, sources at the city attorney's office say the potential of a lawsuit against both the city and the school district is great. In the meantime, swimming classes have been canceled for the rest of the year. And Nancy Ho's family has been told Nancy has a 10% chance to live. Emil Guillermo, News Center 4.
News this week that there's been a dramatic drop in AIDS transmission among gay men in San Francisco is a clear message that education about prevention works. The question now is what's being done to send the message to the rest of the population. News Center 4's Linda Yee reports.
The move to educate the general public is picking up speed. News Center 4 has learned that the city of Berkeley today approved a plan to mail AIDS information brochures to every household in the city. Officials say it will have basic AIDS information and will not push any moralistic messages. Councilwoman Maudel Sharek.
We feel that it's a crisis right now and that education is very important for people.
Berkeley will be the first city in California to take such an aggressive approach to reach the general public. The biggest risk group among heterosexuals is needle-sharing drug abusers. In San Francisco, there is a grassroots movement to start a program to give junkies clean needles, modeled after similar projects in several European cities. The AIDS virus can spread among drug addicts who share needles. Les Pappas of the San Francisco AIDS Foundation admits giving needles to junkies is a controversial move.
It's really not a political issue. I mean, it's a health issue. And I think if we can keep that focus, the point is to prevent AIDS among IV drug users. So an important way to do that is to make sure that they don't share needles, to make sure that they have their own needles and are able to keep them and carry them with them and use them when they're going to shoot up.
In the meantime, the San Francisco AIDS Foundation is ready to launch a new anti-AIDS message to drug users. Comic books with graphic warnings will be passed out on the streets in the coming weeks.
We have a lot of people, a lot of IV drug users who didn't graduate high school, who can't read or can read very little. So what this comic book does is is use language that's very easily understood.
But health officials concede all this is still not enough to reach the general population about the risk to AIDS. One Alameda County health officer said waiting too long to do more will be the same fatal mistake they made in the gay community when the AIDS epidemic began. Linda Yee, News Center 4.
A lot of political news around the state today, ranging from the fight for school funding to trouble for Governor Deukmejian's plan to get rid of Cal OSHA. Political editor Rollin Post has more.
The Superior Court judge blew the whistle today on Governor Deukmejian's plan to dismantle Cal OSHA, the state's worker safety program. The governor said in January he wanted to shift OSHA's duties to the federal government in order to save $8 million a year. But the judge ruled Deukmejian can't act alone without conferring with the legislature. Lowell Finley, attorney for the plaintiffs, is pleased.
There has been a clear ruling that the governor is acting outside his legal authority, and the governor should comply with that ruling.
Meanwhile, sparks are flying between Deukmejian and State School Superintendent Bill Honig over the governor's plan to rebate $700 million to taxpayers. Honig wants the money turned over to schools, but the governor says if schools can't manage on their current budget, it's Honig's fault, not his.
If with all the money that we've put into K through 12 schools, and that's some $6 billion, if they don't have enough money to pay for materials and books, it is quite obvious that something is wrong, and there's a lot of mismanagement.
In San Francisco, absentee voters could make history in the June 2nd congressional election. Registrar of Voters Jay Patterson says for the first time, more people may vote by absentee ballot than at the polling booth on Election Day. Patterson is projecting that 40,000 people will vote absentee, while only 21% of the voters will vote in person on Election Day. Rollin Post, News Center 4.
Fiji's Governor General appointed a caretaker government today, giving key positions to leaders of this month's military coup. Fiji may be a faraway island nation, but 30,000 Bay Area Fijians are watching all the turmoil very closely. They're concerned about friends and family. News Center 4's Vic Lee with the story.
James Singh and Himraj are buying their tickets to go back to Fiji. They are worried about their families and friends.
You've tried the phones?
Yes, tried many times.
And what happens?
They couldn't get through.
So you have no idea if they're safe or what kind of condition they're in?
No.
Singh and Raj are Fijians of Indian descent, as are most of the 30,000 Fijians in the Bay Area. They are worried because of news reports that the coup has fueled racial tensions between native Fijians and ethnic Indians.
Let me make a phone call to Fiji and see what happens over there, what's latest.
Wahid Ali, a leader in the community, has been calling Fiji at least 4 times a day.
Have you heard that Prime Minister Bavandra is hiding in one of the New Zealand ships? Is that true?
His travel agency has become an unofficial clearinghouse for information within the community.
In this office alone, I have filled it over.
Robert Stack and Dwight Schultz joined